Hello, travelers. Welcome to Reach the World. For over 20 years, Reach the World has used virtual exchange to inspire youth to become curious, confident, and compassionate global citizens. My name is Tim, and this week, together with Citi's E for Education campaign, we're going on a journey to explore how global citizens can put that valuable skill set to work as part of a global career. Over the course of 5 days, we'll be connecting with Citi employees in 9 financial capitals across 6 continents. These Citi professionals have generously agreed to share their stories, observations, and tips for finding success in this highly interconnected global economy. For a complete listing of upcoming Citi Global Career Journey live stream events, check out athome.reachtheworld.org. Today, we're continuing the Citi Global Career Journey with a stop in Sao Paulo, Brazil, to speak with Citi employees Barbara Signorelli and Jianhu Song. Barbara and Jianhu are joining us today to talk about working, living, and thriving professionally in Sao Paulo, Brazil. But before we meet Barbara and Jianhu, though, I want to welcome the teachers, students, Reach the World travelers, and early career professionals who are watching this live stream today. Please use the YouTube chat bar to let us know you're here, where you're joining from, and to share any questions you have for our guests as we go. We'll get to as many questions as we can in the next 45 minutes. All right, let's get underway. Barbara, Jianhu, welcome to Reach the World.
Thanks, team.
Of course, it's great to have you here. I want to dive right into our first topic today, which is your personal global career path so far. Everybody's journey to a job or a career takes a different sort of path. And maybe Barbara, starting with you, maybe you can tell us where you started and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Yes, of course. So basically right now I'm FX sales and markets team. I support global clients at Citi. I started, I guess, my career as a global career high school. I went to that good, but they sent me there to learn stuff. And when I got there were a lot of different students from Russia, from Europe, even from Latin. And then I found out that culture was something that really interested me. So from that moment on, I tried looking for opportunities to go study abroad or do some type of exchange where I could meet other people. And then I went to US after I went to France, and I also went to China to do some volunteer work and start knowing a lot about, like, a lot more than I knew about the world, the global, how countries work, and how people think, which really amazes me. And then I joined Citi as a trainee. And during the process to decide where to go and what I like, I found out that I really like multinational companies because they provide me contact with lots of clients worldwide, lots of different people. Then I would need to learn about costumes. And that was something that really moves me forward. So I think, let
All right, Barbara, we're having a little bit of a signal issue with you. Let's give you a second for your signal to get caught up. And you know what, Barbara, why don't we come back to you to finish that thought, if you don't mind. Jianhu, do you want to answer the same question? Sorry, Barbara.
Yeah, so first, what am I doing right now? So I am the head of LATAM China desk. So basically, I manage all the Chinese companies' business in Latin America. Citi has presence in 23 countries. So I manage all these Chinese companies' business in those 23 countries, all the way from Mexico down to Chile and Argentina. So the best part of this is that you got to travel around the entire region to meet clients, Chinese clients in all these countries, and also colleagues and of Citi teams in all these countries. So how do I get here? It's a little bit complicated because I don't have any finance or business management background at the beginning. I am a language student, so I have my bachelor degree major in French. And that is the reason why after getting my bachelor, I exchanged to France to continue my study in business. So I spent 1.5 years in Nantes, which is in the Western Atlantic coastline of France. Well, 1.5 years for study. And then I moved to Paris for another 1.5 years for 2 internships, one in a corporate bank and the other one in the treasury of a French multinational company. And then I do another exchange to US in Ohio, where I got my double degree. So I got my master's degree in France and then another MBA in Ohio. So I graduated in 2010. And then I moved back to China and joined Citi as a management trainee in early 2011. I start from commercial banking. As you know, Citi has a very open culture. So when you apply for Citi's management trainee, they don't have any requirement on your educational background. So basically, when I was in Guangzhou, China branch, in my team, I have colleagues from, I'm French student, they have an English student, they have an Arabian student, they have, my boss have a mathematics background. And then I also have cash sales, which is major in Chinese traditional medicine. Has nothing to do with business or finance at all. And then the moment I joined Citi, I learned that there is this genius, amazing program of China Desk. So basically around the world, there are 9 people like me who manage Chinese company in different regions. For me, it's based in Sao Paulo, manage Latin America. You have Dubai manage Middle East and Africa, London manage Western Europe, and then Mumbai manage South Asia, etc., etc. So I get to know this vacancy in 2018. That's the moment when I raised my hand and get transferred to Brazil.
All right, I was going to ask you about language because I would have guessed English, Mandarin, and maybe Portuguese as well, but I did not think this was going to go through France and French. Are those your 4 languages?
Not exactly. Well, of course, English, Mandarin, French, and I'm come from southern China, so I speak Cantonese.
Okay.
But I don't speak Portuguese.
Okay, yeah, that's still a very impressive language set. Some sort of a common denominator that we've come across with a lot of the Citi people we've spoken to this week. Barbara, it looks like your connection is back. I'm sorry to cut you off before. Do you want to finish what you were saying? Oh, maybe we lost her again temporarily. Barbara, can you hear me all right?
Am I back? Am I back?
Yes, there you are. Hello. Not quite. We're going to have to come back to you again, Barbara. I'm so sorry. Looked like we had you for a second, but you're gone again. So hold that thought. I want to hear the rest of your global career journey too, and I promise we'll loop back around to it. Let's move sort of on to our second topic for today, which has to do with living and working specifically in Sao Paulo. It's a unique city in a unique country. And I'm curious to know from both of you, and John Hu, we should probably start with you. What is it like for you to, I mean, you've lived in a lot of different places. What's unique about living and working in Sao Paulo?
Well, actually, I'm based in Sao Paulo, but actually I will spend only 1/3 of my time, 1/3 of my time in Sao Paulo, as I travel a lot in the entire region, also back in China for business meeting with clients. But basically, Sao Paulo, as you know, is the largest city in Southern Hemisphere, and it's also the financial economic center of Brazil. So from this point of view, there's not much difference of other financial centers in the world, such as Singapore, Hong Kong, New York, or London. It's a very busy city with a huge population of over 20 million people. So it's from a life point of view, it's kind of like a big city in the world. But the other thing I would like to say is it's here you have a very great climate. I guess it's one of the best in the world because you don't have a hot summer or a cold winter. So from climate point of view, it's amazing to live here, and it's very close to the beautiful beaches. So from the life point of view, it's really good. But of course, as some of you have concern that, for example, Brazil have some problem of securities. And of course, like any big city, you have places like that. So there are places that are more safer than the other. So you got to understand which are the parts that you can go or you cannot go.
Okay, Barbara, it looks like you're back with us. Do you want to give it another
Am
try?
I back? Can you hear me?
Yeah, if you want,
Finally.
maybe you can. It looks good now, but if you freeze up again, feel free to turn your camera off. Sometimes that helps with the.
Okay.
We can still hear you.
Sure, perfect. So did you hear something at the beginning, or should I start over?
Why don't you just sort of start over so we can get the whole story?
Okay, of course. So I was talking that my global career started when I went to Germany. I used to speak German in high school, and then they sent me over to learn a little bit more. I got contact with Russians and Europeans, a lot of people from Latin. And then I found out that I really like cultural experiences and languages, most of it. So I tried focusing my journey during this past few years to do abroad experiences. So I also went to US to go study for summer course. I did an exchange for 7 months in Paris, and I also went to China for volunteer work. So there's a lot that I learned, a lot of people that I met, different people. One of my closest friends is from Tunisia, the other one from Egypt. So it's really nice. And the other one from Austria. So I really have friends abroad, which I love to hear stories about and know their families and everything. And then when I graduated, I decided that I want a global career, like discussed with different cultures on my daily business. So that's why I came to Citi. And then during my trainee year, I discussed with my bosses to go to multinational companies. Until last year, I was supporting multinational companies on relationship side. And I used to work really close with Pai, Jan Hui, who's on the call, supporting on the Asian names coverage. And then from this year on, I moved to market. So I do FX for all those companies. I speak a lot of English. I speak a little bit of Spanish on my daily business, not that much, but English, Portuguese. I can speak French, Italian, a little bit of German, and I'm really working forward to learn some Mandarin. I try my best, but it's a really hard language.
Well, I have great respect for anyone who speaks that many languages. Kudos to both of you. I know a lot of our Reach the World travelers are start this journey on a language platform too, are either looking to gain fluency by going abroad or are just excited by language in particular. And it's cool to hear how language is, such a common denominator for many people in the start of a global career. So Barbara, why don't we come back to you and ask you what you like about living and working in Sao Paulo specifically?
Sure. I think what I like the most, and I did miss that when I was living in Paris, which is also a big city, is the 24/7 system. Like in Sao Paulo, if you're hungry at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., or any time during your day, you can find anything. You can find fast food, you can find pizzas, you can find Japanese food, maybe Lebanese food. Like there will be something open for you to eat and enjoy all the time. And that's something that really moves me because the city never sleeps, like New York, it really never sleeps. And there's a lot of traffic, which I may say I'm not the biggest fan. But at the same time, we do have good public transportation. So there's a huge subway. Of course, right now with COVID situation, it's not that well, but well, you can move around. We have a lot of parks. And it's easy to go to museums, I guess, to eat well, to have contact with different cultures. And you see like Citi is located on one of the main avenues of Sao Paulo. And if you walk around on the streets, you're surely going to see a lot of people from abroad. So you see everything, less people from Sao Paulo. So it's really nice, this experience on a daily routine, I guess.
All right, what a great description. I feel like I've been there and seen it now, even though I haven't. I'd love to go there someday. I want to skip right ahead to our third category. We have a bunch of Reach the World students who are on the call today, and I want to give them all a chance to ask their questions. So let's talk about like the nuts and bolts of a global career. If you are a high schooler or you are a college student or a recent college graduate, and you're excited about the idea, you get energy from the idea of working with people from different countries and cultures. What are some things that you would recommend both the students on the call today and the students watching the live stream or the recording? What can they do today to sort of advance down that path?
Maybe I guess, yeah, I think my first advice, and that's something that I really bring with me on career, is be curious. Like, you don't know everything, you're never gonna know everything, and there's always something else that you never thought that you can learn, and you do. So ask questions, go to people and understand what they do, and maybe say you don't know things, because when you say you don't know, it's easier. They will explain you in an easiest way. And keep engaging. I guess the concept of network itself, of course, and when you go to work, it makes total sense because you need to know who you're working at and build bridges. But the concept of network makes you grow on your daily routine and your career path. So I guess try discussing with people, everyone you see, and everything that you may think, I want to know something more about that. Just go for it, and don't be shy. And there's no right answer. It's not a mistake to say you don't know something. And it's super nice to see young people coming to us every day and asking and showing interest to learn. That's amazing.
Jean-Hu will come to you shortly, but Barbara, I wanted to follow up and just ask you quickly, is there one either soft or hard skill that you have worked on a lot that you feel is especially, is a big factor to your success at Citi? One thing that you do or have practiced or picked up that has really been a big asset to you?
Yes, and I guess that will be empathy. So that's something that I thought I had, but then when I came to Citi, I found out that I really didn't, because it asks you much more than you're used to. Now, on the sense that when you're talking to people in Citi, is the biggest, like it's one of the biggest banks in the world and a huge organization it is. You're not on the other shoes, you don't know what the other person is going through. You don't know the limitations they might have on their areas. You don't even know if they're in a good humor or not, if they woke up and fought with their families, or if anything happened. And that surely goes into their daily routines, and there surely impacts on how they are communicating to you. So before going to the fight, because some people just think that, yeah, they're not giving a shit about me, so let's go for the fight. Don't go for it. Just think through, and the first thing you should think is, I don't know nothing about this person. I should be gentle with them, and let me try to understand where he comes from, where she comes from, so we can find a common ground. So I think, and that's something that you need to work on a daily basis, because there will be times that you're super stressed and you don't want to think of anything else. You just want to explode, but just don't. Remember that you are a person, you're a human being, and other people around you are the same. So they need your support.
That's great advice, Barbara. Thank you. Jean-Hu, how about you? What advice would you have for our viewers about sort of achieving the same global career that you have done in their own way?
All right, so first I want to say that working in a different country or as a student exchange to another country is quite different when you actually live there, right? So in a working environment, for example, right now, although I don't speak Portuguese, but in Citi Brazil, I don't have any problem. Most of the colleagues speak fluently English. Most of the clients also speak fluently English, but that's not the reality when you're talking about living in another country. So at the end, language of the country is very, very basic, and it really helps you to understand the mindset or ideology or culture of the country and the people. As I said, I was a language student, so during my college, other than language courses, I also have classes, for example, for intercultural communications. So it doesn't just teach you the language, it teaches you how French think, why they act a certain way. For example, I just give you a few examples. Very interesting when I have this internship experience in France, because as I mentioned, in the first 1.5 years, I actually live in a French family. When I get there, my host, it's an old French lady, very elegant. Right at that time, she was 64 years old. She has a boyfriend who was 75 years old. Her boyfriend has a wife. So during the weekday, her boyfriend living with his wife on an island, and during the weekend, her boyfriend will come to Nantes and live with her in the weekend and watch football games. And I also shared in that free semester, I also shared a room with one Jewish people, one Mexican, and one American. And during this 3 semester, this French family also indeed taught me a lot about the culture. For example, in which situation should a guy enter a space first? In which situation should a lady enter first? Not always the guy in France. And how people eat the table manner in France. This is extremely important when I actually do my internship in Paris, because this is a professional background, right? The people won't treat you as a foreigner. They will treat you as a French. And you have to beat other French candidate when you go to abroad to apply for a job, right? You are competing with local candidates or competitors, right? So you have to, as fluent as in terms of language, you have to be as fluent as local people and also understand the culture. So when I worked in this French company, I was in the headquarters of the Treasury Department. So one day, my colleague who is responsible for commodity hedging of the entire group, the CFO asked him to come to go to his office. And he come back within seconds. I say, what happens? And he said, well, the CFO told me that he wouldn't talk to anybody without a tie. So he sent me back. I mean, this thing probably would not happen in some other country, for example, in China or in Brazil. Maybe you will discuss business first and ask you to put on a tie later on. So, but there's lots of explicit or implicit message or just little things that may help you or prevent you to achieve something when you really live in those cultures. And this is the reason why Citi has this national desk. We have China desk, Japan desk, Korea desk, because in terms of culture, language perspective, China, Korea, Japan has really long but different and strong culture compared to other Western countries, for example.
That is very interesting. What an interesting example. I wanted to follow up with just one question of my own before we switch to our on-camera student questions. It sounds, Jean, who like you travel a lot around South and Central America, which I think to a lot of the Reach the World students who are watching are like, yes, sign me up. I would love to go to all those places. That's my reaction to that. Do you like traveling as much? Is that part of why you like to do what you do? Or do you like sometimes just want to stay put? Is that just something you're after and part of what makes your job appealing to you? Yes, please.
Oh, yeah, of course. I am also a photographer and I write a travel blog, and unfortunately it's in Chinese. I post it on Chinese websites. So I do love traveling, and actually my experience in France inspired me a lot because I really into learning the culture. So so that's what I mean when you really live there, not just travel or just work there or just exchange there. So when I know that there's this vacancy in Brazil, I immediately raise my hand.
All right. Well, I think a lot of us here can understand that. Sounded like a great opportunity. I'm going to switch us over to gallery view, which will, show us all the great people here who are excited to ask you questions. I'm not going to go in any particular order, probably just the way it appears on my screen. So thank you ahead of time for being willing to ask some questions or answer some questions from our Reach the World travelers. Evelyn, let's start with you. You're right up next to me again.
Hi, Barbara and Janhu. Thank you for coming to our talk today. Question I had for you guys is, particularly for Brazil, what kind of interview skills is a Citibank looking for?
Yeah, Barbara, let's start with you. Okay. Yeah, that's a tough one because I don't think there's a model. Let's say, I think Citi globally is looking for people who I mentioned have curiosity, who engage with others, or who understands the globalization importance, who are patient and like to cooperate in groups. I think those are skills really, really strong in Citi culture. And there's also something, and I'm gonna say as a Brazilian, and maybe Jean who can complement. But on my perspective, when working with other countries and when working with Brazilians directly, is that we in Brazil we are really friendly and informal. So we just want to do things fast, and we want to do things in a nice way and together. And sometimes, and that's weird and a sort of way, but we just want to have fun, in the work. So we laugh a lot. Like in the area that I work now, we are mainly young people, and then there's a lot of times that we're super stressed, and what we're looking is distraction to break through it and just show us that life is worth living, and then let's come back, have fun, and work more again. So we have sort of this behavior, and sometimes it might not seem true, like when a foreigner comes, and I don't know what's your impression on talking to people, but when I'm talking to my colleagues, I think like, yeah, maybe if we were in States or in Europe, we were not going to be that good, right? Like it's not the behavior that we should be having, but that's something like more how Brazil works. And that's the beauty, on the other hand, that you have different cultures on the other side of the screen, on the other side of the phone. And then sometimes you need to just go back and think who you're talking to, who is your main stakeholder, let's say the public that you're directing your message, and how you're going to adapt to make sure that it works. So Citi, there's not a rule, there's no fixed thing on you should be doing that, so then you're going to be hired. But I think it's a composition and put together of everything that I said here, and plus what Phi will share, that's surely going to get you a good shot with Citi.
Great. John, who you want to add to that?
Well, I don't have a good answer to that because I don't actually being interviewed in Brazil. But as I mentioned, if we're talking about Citi more broadly, as I mentioned, there's really, well, first it depends on which type of job. If you are talking about a specific job, or for example, like Barbara doing, I'm applied for market sales, right? You really need to have some professional background. But other than that, if it's entry-level job, it's just, for example, management trainee and stuff like that, Citi really don't have any requirement on any specific professional background. So it's really about the personality.
Okay. Yeah, great addition.
Yeah, and Tim, may I add one point here? I think you didn't mention, but I graduated in marketing, communication and marketing. And Jen Hui graduated and I think it's languages, right? In French, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So both of us we don't come from financial background at first, but here we are, right? So I think there's a shot for everyone.
That's a really interesting addition, Barbara. We've spoken to several of your colleagues across the world, and I don't think we've met anyone yet who started as a finance person. Everyone has come from a lot of different ways and it has place within Citi. That's interesting. Angela, we're up to you. If you want to unmute yourself, go ahead and ask a question, please.
Yes, sorry if there's any noise. There's construction going on right next to me. But my question is, as there are many great opportunities out there, some of the hardest parts is finding these opportunities? Because a lot of it is online, but like everything is online now. So it's really hard to like find specific places to look for these opportunities. So do you have any recommendations on like places to find these opportunities or even internships that can lead to these opportunities?
Great. Barbara, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I really am not fully familiar how on US things work, but I might say in Brazil, we do use a lot of LinkedIn. I don't know if you have profiles there, but that would be amazing. That's an excellent start, both because you can show yourself to the world. So you put up your profile, upload your CV, and then look for jobs. But one thing that really helps in Brazil is that we have centers and organizations looking for interns and trainees that sort of put together a lot of CVs and direct candidates according to their profiles. So when I applied at Citi, I already knew Citi and had some connections because I knew I want to be here. But I went through this process. So I discussed with one of the organizations, and then you really I don't know if it works on US same way, but I checked with them, and then I did a few interviews to understand what I was named to. So I was not going to be an engineer, you know. Of course, on communication finance might be an opportunity, but like engineering, not at all. Neither law school. So you need to filter a little bit what you're doing, and then once you find out, you just go with the culture that meets you more. So I guess it's a combination, but probably there are tons of opportunities also in universities. I guess they might have blogs or websites where they post opportunities for you. So I would encourage on this sense.
Thank you, Barbara. Jian-Hu, you want to add anything?
No, I really don't have a good answer for this one. Try not to mislead you. It's been a long time for me.
Okay, yeah, I second Barbara's answer of LinkedIn. It's sort of an international way to present yourself in a really, in the way you want to present yourself to anybody internationally. Great question, Angela. Thank you so much. Trevelius, let's bring you into the conversation. Go ahead.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Trevelius, and I am actually a communication major currently, Barbara. So my question is not specific to you, but I would like to know your answer. But are there transformative skills, hard skills, and soft skills that you've gotten from communication that you can apply to your current position?
Sure. That's an excellent question. I get that a lot, actually. I think communication by itself, it's weird if you think that people don't communicate, but there are people that are more introverts, there are people that are more extroverts, and there are people that are just willing to do their data analysis, they just want to get Excel sheets the full day, and that's what makes them happy. So you have everything on the work environment. But I think what helps me, I'm sales. At the end of the day, I'm technical on FX field and markets, but I'm a salesperson. So when doing communication, what I learned, I think the most, is that clients' opinion and clients' feedback and everything that goes into clients is extremely important. So even if you think you're right, if client says no, just think twice. It's the client. So, and then I had a teacher that used to say to me on a daily basis, like, marketing does not question what client says. Marketing just says, yeah, okay, let's do it. So in an informal way. And then I got it. When client calls me and says, hey, Barbara, I have this huge idea, which I totally know it's not going to work out. I say, yeah, let's do it. But let's think about this way. So the first instinct you should have, I guess, and that you get a lot on communication, is how to please people in a way that they feel they are okay to bring you ideas, they're okay to work you, that you are a partner, and you always need to be a partner. And I think that this is a good skill that I brought from my major and that I use nowadays.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jian-Hu, I want to ask the same question to you, because I imagine you come across situations where communication, especially cross-cultural, is essential to what you do.
Yes. Well, actually, what we do daily is about communication, right? It's trying to make the job I'm doing is to work as a bridge to transform information I learned from my local colleagues in all around Latam to a message that a Chinese audience, a Chinese client can understand. And there's lots of different ways of communication. There's in person, and also there's lots of ways to do, for example, events. We have event every year in Sao Paulo. We have this China Day event. So you have speaker, you have lots of different ways of communication. And right now, this year during pandemic, we also need to do virtual roadshow. So there's lots of different ways of communications.
Okay, thank you. Great question, great answers. I really appreciate it. Soren, let's bring you in. Go ahead with your question if you have one.
Yeah, absolutely. So first I want to say thank you guys. And I think it's really cool how you guys have talked more about kind of the human aspect of your jobs and how it's important to understand, or just to be culturally competent, but also to understand empathy. And I think it's awesome how the discussion has been centered around that, because a lot of times, especially when you think, okay, working for a big bank, you don't necessarily think that. You think more the financial side. But my question is kind of related to both you guys, since your background isn't in finance, and I just want to hear more about kind of how you've been successful still working for a bank, even if you didn't have the original background there, and what has maybe kept you to stay that way. And then on top of that, also me being someone that doesn't know anyone from Citi and also doesn't have a finance background, what would kind of get me to get my foot in the door with a big corporate bank like Citi?
Barbara, you want to take the first stab at that one?
Yeah, sure. I always take, right? How you want to do it, or I can go ahead if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I think this is an interesting story, because when I was to graduate, I was working first in a marketing agency. I was doing basically ads and live marketing events. And at some point I was like, I think I'm in the wrong place. What am I doing here? But where should I go? And then I applied to, it was a marketing position in Credit Suisse in Brazil. And when discussing during the interview, one of the things they asked me is how much you know about finance. I said nothing, but I'm willing to learn. And I guess this willing to learn was the turning point that was like, okay, so bring it on and let's see if it works. And then at the end of the day, it did work. And I think the most fantastic part of all is that I really got amazed. And there are people who work and like their jobs, and I used to say that. And there are people who love their jobs. I'm one of those who love my job. Like, I really love financial market. I cannot explain why. Like, there's not a objective or actual reason. It's just that you know that you like the subject. You know that you like to learn about the subject. So when I realized that, I started studying by my own. So I started reading books. I started doing some craft courses. There are a few certificates that you should take in Brazil to be a salesperson. So I also took those. Of course, it was going to be harder than for the people that came from that background. But, you know, you need to work for sometimes, and you need to study. And I guess that's a really good advice. You always need to study. Like, every day in your life, you need to study something new, because that motivates you and that makes your mind go, I think, grows in general. So that was what I started doing. And when I decided that I want to be really technical in the fields, because now I'm a really technical team, I went to do an MBA locally, so in Brazil, in finance. So I took like a year and a half studying a lot of the things that I didn't learn in college, and that sort of qualified and gave the credentials so I could get my current position. It's not that I wouldn't get it if I didn't do it, but you know, there are a few topics and a few things that you see on your daily routines in markets area where I am, that you need to have phase 1, 2, 3 up to 10 reached, so you're ready to go on those. And if you lack, I think, on this sport, then you're gonna be lost, and then it's gonna be harder for them and for you. So what you need to have in mind, work in a bank, there are tons of areas. You can be operational, you can be IT, you can be marketing and events, as I was first place. You can be relationship team, so that's what Jean-Louis is right now, and you can be like me, and there are tons of others. So maybe you are not gonna go in the first place as your end position. You're not gonna go in on where you want to be in 5 to 10 years, but just go where you know you can open a door and then explore this door and see where it gets you. I think that would be my advice.
Great advice, Barbara. Jean-Hu, you want to add anything to that?
Yes. So first, there are some jobs that really required a really professional background, but I would say most of the job that you see in banking is really not rocket science. It's really about marketing and communication internally and externally with clients. So having said that, I would like to give an example, for example, how I changed first from a language student to a business student, right? So when I graduate from my university in China with a French bachelor degree, and then I went to France for further study and business school. So you can imagine that I am not a native French speaker. So in terms of language, I'm not so good as other French students. And all these French students in that business school, they have already some business knowledge background in their before they entering the university. So when I joined the school, the curriculum of the school is very good because they have 3 semesters and all the courses is about every aspect of business management. For example, I have to study law. So first year social law, and then company law, and then things like that. And then marketing is something is the same. And then accounting, management control, and the courses will become more and more advanced into each of the subjects. So it helps me gradually getting me ready from a pure language student with absolutely no background to gradually get into the world of business. It's the same when I enter Citi. So in my batch of management trainee, as I mentioned, we have colleagues from all different backgrounds, even some of them from Chinese traditional medicine. You can imagine that. But when you're entering Citi with, for example, management trainee roles, Citi really provides a series of very comprehensive training that cover all the basic aspects of what you need to know in terms of banking to help you get started. And so that's where you can get your foot into the door of this banking world.
All right. Thank you. Great question, Soren. Max, you're up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Barbara and Jean-Hui, for being here. It was really awesome. I was really excited to hear about your experiences with language specifically, because I've been studying Portuguese for about 3-4 years. So I was curious because I was hearing you talk about how, a lot of your colleagues and clients that you work with, are fluent in English. And as our global marketplace becomes, more globalized and English becomes much more of a lingua franca, I was interested in hearing, specifically in Brazil, how useful speaking Portuguese still is for an applicant, and how, someone who might speak a global language can still use that to leverage, an application and leverage their resume.
Sure. Why don't we give this one? I'll give this one to Jean-Hu, and then Stephen, we'll give your final question to Barbara.
So you should give this one to Barbara because I don't speak Portuguese, but I can tell that Portuguese is super mega important for
Good
me
idea.
as someone that don't speak Portuguese.
We'll switch that around. Barbara, why don't you take this one?
Okay, so I think if you come into senior position, it's not gonna be life-changing. It does help. It helps a lot, but not life-changing. If you come into a junior position, that's surely something that it's going to differentiate you among others. Because although like in Citi, we do speak English because it's part of the job and we are an American bank. But if you go to major banks in Brazil, it's not a requirement to speak English. Of course, it's nice, but you don't speak English with people on your daily basis, right? So if you want to work on financial markets, let's say, there are fantastic banks in Brazil. They're not multinationals, and that will value a lot. You have Portuguese in your CV. And Citi, of course, is one of those because we like to have talents from everywhere who can bring different points of view and then can communicate easily either in one language or the other. And I think it's super nice that you talk Portuguese. I'm really excited. I think it's not a lot of people that come to me and say, I'm learning Portuguese, and it's a really tricky language. Like I myself, I was born here and probably wouldn't study. But, some things you don't choose, right? But it's super, super nice. And I think Brazil is a huge market and a fantastic market. We do have a lot of improvements to do, but there's also a lot to grow. So if you plan to come here and if you're studying, just come. You don't need to be perfect. Just come the way you are, and here you're gonna figure it out.
All right, great question, great answer, Barbara. Thank you, Stephen. Go ahead, take us to the finish line.
I think that kind of touched on a part of my question, which is Brazil having the indigenous culture, the Brazilian Portuguese culture, and Spanish being right across its borders. How being a working Citi in Brazil, how has that changed your perspectives on the global world and the global market?
All right, Jean-Hu, I think you want to take a stab at that one? I know that Portuguese is all around you, and I'm sure it plays a role, and also you're traveling all throughout Central and South America, so you hear a lot of Spanish. Does that change your perspective on where you live and work at all?
Yes, so first, just one compliment to Max's question. Quite different from Europe or Asia Pacific, English is mandatory in, I guess, middle school, high school, etc. And I will say in most of the country, if not all, in Latin America, English is not a mandatory lesson during the education process. So whether it's Spanish and Portuguese is super mega important when you communicate with people locally. Having said that, for Stephen's question, I guess Latin America is unique. If you look at the financial or economic side of this entire region, it's features with extreme volatility. And giving us a little bit of the historic background, each of the country, although they share the same, almost the same or relevant cultural or language. However, in terms of regulatory or local economic dynamic, it's very, very different. I would say is super different compared to Asia Pacific. So from my perspective, it would be the region that needs someone like me to serve as a cultural or language bridge for to facilitate investment, for example, from the Chinese investor. I would say it would be the same for other companies, multinational company from other countries.
Okay, great questions. Thank you all so much. Thanks for the great answers. We were actually a couple minutes over our time, so I'm going to wrap it up here. I want to thank Barbara, Jean-Hu. Thank you so much for sharing your global career journeys with Reach the World today. Thank you also to our entire on-camera students, amazing job, and live stream audiences for the great questions. Reach the World Citi Global Career Journey continues this week with stops in Seoul, Singapore, Sydney, and more. How does living and working in those cities compare to what we just heard from Barbara and John Hu? I will be asking Citi employees in those cities the same questions in the coming days so we can make head-to-head comparisons and you can take the next steps on your personal global career journeys. Special thanks to the Citi E4Education campaign and to all our many Citi volunteers for making this experience and others possible. Check out the full lineup of upcoming events at athome.reachtheworld.org. We're off to Seoul, South Korea next, bright and early tomorrow morning for those of you who are in the United States and on East Coast time. So I hope to see you all there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.